All right. Well, you know what? I'm going to get started. So I actually put together a cool little lesson to kind of show you some tips on photography, as well as what it would actually be like to work in a real studio, which you should be in here next year working on. So, just trying to give you an idea, for this project to be able to shoot a product and then make a poster, you can just as easily use a smartphone because the cameras are very good quality. And for the needs of this project. And actually, Stephen was lucky. He had the opportunity because he's been coming into live class, and we shot his product last week, and it came out really, really cool. So I'm going to show you from start to finish kind of what I took photos of. I'm going to share my screen and kind of walk you through the whole process of what I've been doing. And I just put this together to really kind of give you an idea of what the classroom looks like. And I'm going to share this with you right now. And if you see, you should see a giant camera, correct? Does everybody see a giant camera? Jordan? Okay. So this is what we use in industry, okay? This is what's called a DSLR, or digital single lens reflex camera. So this is a digital camera. This is something that you would see in a photography studio on a regular basis. And the cool thing about these types of cameras is they come with a lot of different features, and you can even put different lenses on them. So if you're shooting portraits, or you're shooting products, or you need to shoot something fast, or you need to shoot a long exposure, these cameras have the ability to focus manually, to do manual exposure, to interchange the lenses. You can add flashes to them. There's a lot of really cool things that you can do with these cameras. And one of the biggest things is you can actually hook this camera up to the studio lights. And Steve, you remember, we use that little transmitter to be able to hook them up to the big studio lights. So I'll show you the pictures of them again. But kind of moving on here, here's the back of the display. This kind of shows you everything as you shoot the camera. And if you look to the left, this shows you what's called your shutter speed. This is the speed at which how quickly you take the picture of your product or person or whatever it is that you're taking a picture of. And over here is your aperture, the opening of the lens, and how much light comes in. So these cameras are great because they give you a lot of information. It even tells you that you're shooting in manual mode right now. And you can see this is one of those old school cameras that you look through the hole, and you can also use the screen with what's called live view, and you can see that right there. But I always try to encourage people to look through the camera, because what you're going to see is what you're going to get. And there's no lag. Sometimes with screens, it takes a split second or half a second for it to kick out of live view and take the photo. And sometimes a half a second is a long time with taking sports or any type of action photos. And then here's the top view. This is the lens. This comes with a really nice lens. This would be called a zoom or telephoto lens. It actually can take pictures wide from far away, and it could also bring things up closer. So you would actually call it like a utility lens, because it does more than one thing. You can buy just a lens to take portraits, just a lens to do landscape photography, so on and so forth, but it gets pretty expensive. So a lot of these cameras new come in a kit, and it comes with a decent lens that you can get stuff a little bit wide and a little bit close, and then down the road you can go and buy your own equipment as you need it. Same thing here. You have your basic controls in the front. You have some dials, and over here is what they call your command control dial. So you can see there's an M, an A, an S, a P, manual, aperture, shutter, program, and full auto. So you can go, like I said, you can turn this camera on, put it on full automatic. The flash pops up. It'll focus. It'll do everything you could possibly need. But as you become more proficient in photography, you're going to start shooting in manual mode. Okay. Any questions so far? You good?
I'm good.
Okay, cool. So moving on to the next one. This is just another front view. You can see the controls here on the front. You can actually do automatic or manual focus. And you can also do the same thing here with your controls. Now, this lens actually was a little bit more expensive, but totally worth it. There's a thing here called VR. And VR means vibration reduction. So it can actually cut down when you're holding the camera and your hand shakes a little. it can actually compensate for that, which is pretty awesome, especially if you're taking pictures in low light or things like that, and you need to take a longer picture. Now, this is what we call a monolight, okay? This is basically just a really big flash. It's about this big, and it goes up to 1,000 watts of power. So it's like a light bulb. It's like a 1,000 watt light bulb. But the beauty of this is it can take pictures of very big objects. Like you can actually photograph a car in a garage with 3 or 4 of these lights, and it would do a fantastic job. Here's the back view of the light, and it's actually pointing into an umbrella to reflect the light, because you never want to shoot the bare light straight on. It gets really hot. The reflection's really poor, and it just, you know, makes the image, especially a model, they would sit there and go, because the light would be so bright. But you can see, using math, the light goes from full power down to 1/32 of a power. So it's all fractions. So it should look familiar, you know, half a second, quarter second, eighth. So, you know, knowing your math is kind of important in this industry. You can also use what's called a modeling light. It gives you an idea of what the lighting's going to look like. And then, of course, your power on and off, and a test mode, and a few other things that you can add on to this monolight. So then here's a faraway shot. So this is the actual monolight here with the umbrella. Now, they make things called soft boxes. It looks like a giant white box. So either or works well. Sometimes when you're out and you're running around on locations, umbrellas work really well because they literally fold up like an umbrella, and it's a lot easier and a lot more portable to carry around. So you basically use, this is called a light stand. Looks similar to a tripod, but you sit it on the light stand to point the umbrella into the light, okay? And that's a typical setup there. Now, I took a close-up of this object, which actually is hanging right below the light, right here, okay? So this is actually really important. It's called a radio transmitter. Now, this is how the camera talks to the lights. They used to have this big long cord that you usually tripped over. So in order for the camera to talk to these 2 big lights on each side of the room, you need a transmitter. And it's just like any other type of, it uses a radio frequency to do it. And you can see there's 4 different channels. You have on, 1, and 2. So you could go up 1, down 2. That's really good, because sometimes you're going to work in a studio with 2 or 3 other photographers, and you want to be on different channels, because if not, you're going to be popping each other's lights off, and it's going to look like a dance club in there. So that's a very important thing to have. And here's a close-up of the unit itself. And then this piece here is actually the transmitter, and this is the receiver, okay? The power from the flash goes in here, comes out, and then goes into the flash. This piece here goes onto the camera top. It's called the hot shoe. And hot shoe means that it's electrical in nature. That means that it will take the remote on top and it will electrically talk to the hot shoe on top. Okay, so here's the top view of the hot shoe right here. This is the bottom of the transmitter, and that just slides right on top. As soon as you do that, you're ready to go. You can sit there and you can do all the adjustments that are necessary. Because the one thing I will say, once you have your lighting set up like this, this is what you would call a traditional 2-light setup. It's nice and evenly lit. Sometimes you're going to use 3 lights, 4 lights, 1 light. We'll get into that more down the road. But these could just as easily be your smartphone and 2 desk lights. You know, you don't have to get crazy and creative with it, and spend all this money for equipment and technology. You could just as easily do this stuff at home with a couple of lamps. They make tons of great little LED lights now that are actually color temperature adjustable. And you could easily pick those up for 10 bucks a piece and build a little studio with a white piece of paper. So it's not as complicated as you think if you just get a little creative. And in the tutorials that I set up for this project, I put in a few YouTube videos that cover some really good information on creating your own home studio on a budget. But this is what a traditional type of studio would look like. This is just a cloth backdrop. They make paper, cloth, vinyl, all different kinds, but this is perfect for what we're doing. And you can see, here's my product right here. Okay, it's a pair of sneakers. So now we're going to jump in a bit. There's a side view. You can see the lights are on and everything's ready to go. And I spent all this time moving my lights and taking test shots to make everything work. And I pretty much have the lighting the way I want it. Because once you have your lighting set up, like I said, you don't want to go changing the lights. You want to change the settings on your camera. Use your camera to make things lighter and darker. Okay. So now you look at the shoes, you're like, okay, here's a decent shot of the shoes. And the first thing you want to do is you want to look at the shoes. Actually, before you even do that, you want to do research. Okay. So if you're shooting Nike shoes, go to Nike's website, see how they present their shoes. What do their competitors do? Maybe the competitors shoot them a certain way. Maybe there's ways you're going to shoot them that you probably shouldn't, that nobody else does. There's nothing wrong with being creative or innovative, but if you're going to shoot the shoes with the tied in knots and flipped upside down and they look like they're a mess, and there's no reason for you to shoot it that way, you probably shouldn't shoot it that way. So please make sure you do yourself a favor and do research, whether it's food, a product, electronics, it doesn't matter. Do your research, see what's out there on the internet that's comparable, okay? So once you start doing the research, you can start exploring the product. And it doesn't matter if it's a purse, a hat, a sandwich, pair of shoes, it's a product, okay? And they all get treated the same. How are you gonna light it? How are you gonna show off its best traits? And in a way that people are gonna say, hey, that's pretty nice looking, I like that. So moving on to the next one, the first thing you wanna do is you wanna start to kind of move in close, see what's going on, shoot the shoes together. And then here's a nice shot, and you could see the difference. I was shooting a little bit high. Remember, we talk about that bird's eye point of view, and then here's that worm's eye point of view. Now, let me ask you, Jordan, are there any features on here that you think I should focus on?
My name.
Isn't that a coincidence? So yeah. They're Air Jordan, they're Michael Jordan shoes, okay? So he's a big name, it's a big brand. So you want to make sure you see it. You don't want to have it just say J-O-R-D because the shoes turn the wrong way. So you want to say to yourself, well, there's the Air Jordan logo, there's his name, there's some cool things up here. So you want to be able to highlight and focus in on these things. So you really want to study your product. So as you can see, there's a side view. And then I took a back view. So there's nothing wrong with taking a whole lot of pictures, because there's nothing worse than taking 1 or 2 pictures just to get the project done, and then you look at them on the computer and they might be blurry, or you missed a really important part, or it's not going to fit the boundaries of your poster. It really stinks to have to go and set everything else back up again, you know, especially if they're brand new shoes like this. You got to pack them up, pull the laces out, put them away. Now you got to do it all over again. So make sure you take a look. And when you take that picture on your camera, make sure you pinch and zoom in and make sure it's nice and sharp. Because sometimes pictures look great when they're this big, but not always when you zoom in, they're out of focus. You got to do it over again. And don't forget, time is money. So the least amount of time you got to spend doing this stuff in a professional manner, not rushing through it, the more money you're really going to make. Here's another cool shot of just a top view with those Air Jordan logos. So like I said, you want to give people variety. If I was going to pay, you know, Steve to take my family portrait, do you think I'd be happy with 1 or 2 pictures? No, I'd want like 50 or 60. You know, I want a lot to choose from. You know, just me, just my wife, just the wife and kids, just me and the kids, everybody. So you want to be able to offer variety. And, you know, just because it's a pair of shoes doesn't mean you can't take a lot of pictures. I may use 1 of these pictures. I may use 2, I may use 3. I don't really know until I go to make my poster, unless you went ahead of time and drew out and sketched out your poster and laid it out, which is a really good idea. This was just for fun, and I just started shooting it. Now, if this was actually my project, I would take a poster layout, just a piece of paper, and I would start sketching and say, okay, I'm going to shoot these shoes. I'm going to need a side view, front view, close view, and this is where I'm going to put them all in my poster. Okay, so that is always very helpful. You don't want to do it backwards where you just take a ton of pictures and try and create a poster, because sometimes it doesn't always work out, and you can tell when somebody did that. So, you know, then I flipped over the bottom because, you know what, the tread's really cool. I'm sure people are going to want to see that too. So I took that shot, and then really last but not least, take an individual shot. Okay, you don't know if you're going to use 1, 2, 3 shoes, whatever, but it's always good to take one really good close-up shot. And then here's just another fun one that I wanted to try. I may use it, I may not. I kind of like it. But if you look at the lighting, it's nice and detailed. It really highlights the sequins that are on here, the chrome on the lace. eyelet, and then it brings up the white and a little bit of silver. So the better and more well lit something is, the more detail you're going to get. And believe it or not, the better your product picture is, the more people are likely to buy it. I have a really good track record for selling things on Marketplace, Let It Go, eBay, because I take really good pictures. And sometimes my stuff sells faster than someone that listed their stuff 3 days before, because my picture looks real good and there's a lot of detail and a lot of information. I took a ton of photos to choose from. Okay. So really, that's kind of what I had for today. Just to kind of give you an idea of what the studio is like using this type of equipment, what you'll be using next year. It's awesome to be able to get to work with this equipment, to do some really good high quality imagery. And the cool part too is we have this nonprofit here called the King's Den, where we have clothes, outfits, accessories available to any of our students that are current students at the school that may need extra clothing for work or for a formal event, or just to kind of walk around in. Maybe they have an old pair of shoes, can't afford a new pair, or just don't have the resources to get outside and go out and go to the clothing store. So we opened up the King's Den to help out our students and their families with affordable, well, free clothing, gently used and even new clothing for our students. So this gives us a huge opportunity to do product photography. We get fresh, brand new product all the time here. So your portfolios are going to look insane, because some of these shoes are a couple $100 a pair. So to be able to get all this fresh product, and then you can do photo shoots, you can get models, we can do a fashion show, we can start filming commercials for Nike. So it's not just photography. We could do a radio spot. So we think of all the different ways we can tie it in. You can create music for the shoe, for a new promo that's coming out. These shoes are going to launch on Michael Jordan's birthday. So there's a lot of opportunities here with the King's Den and with all of this product to tie into photography, music, and video. So I'm pretty excited to get this stuff in next year, to get you all in next year, and to work with this stuff. So so that's what I had. If anybody has any questions, what did you think? Pretty good, pretty informative?
It was pretty good.
Cool. So like I said, once I get you in, I honestly think you're all going to jump in and have a great time with photography. You start to get to know the students. You can say, hey, would you model these shoes for me? Be in this video. Oh, you skateboard, can you bring in your skateboard for these shoes or these basketball shoes? We could sit outside on the blacktop with a basketball and do some really cool stuff like video work and commercials and stuff. So it's pretty cool. The sky's the limit. So so that's what I had for today. Now Thursday we're going to catch up, and we're going to meet back up here again on Thursday, and then I'm going to show you how to take these pictures that I just took and make a poster. Okay, so please start chugging along. Please have your photos done. Be prepared Thursday, and I will show you how to lay everything out, and then you'll have your poster done, and we'll have probably one or two more projects before the end of the year. So that's what I have for today. Questions? We good?
I'm good.
Okay, great. Well, thanks you two for showing up. I really appreciate it, and I will catch up with you again on Thursday.